Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the May 12th Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting. If you have cell phones, pagers, or similar devices, if you would turn those off now or silence them so you don't interrupt the meeting. If you are not the applicant, and apparently some of you have figured out you're not, and you wish to address us on a case, there are sign-up sheets. They're available on the table right outside the council chambers, and if you'll give them to one of our clerks here, we'll be happy to hear you when we hear the case. Next order of business is the minutes of April 28th. Commissioners?
Second.
Well said. We have a motion and a second to receive the April 28th minutes. Cast your votes. And we've got them, as it were. Next item is continuance requests, or continuances.
Right. We received two uncontested requests for continuance for item B18, which is case CE 932, to defer that to May 26th, and item B19 for case C6807 to withdraw completely.
Did anyone come today to address us on items 18 or 19 on our agenda?
Move approval of the continuances.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second to approve the continuances. Cast your votes, and they're approved.
We also received one new request for continuance for item B17 for case SPUD 888 to defer that to June 9th.
And did anyone come to talk to us about item 17 today? Take a motion, Commissioner.
Move the new continuance.
We have a motion and a second to continue item 17. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Oh, Buck, I'm waiting for you to hit the button there. There we go. Thank you. Are there any continuance requests from the public today? Sir, come to the microphone. And if you would give us your name and address, please.
This in regard to item 15, BC 10276, application for C3 community commercial district zoning. I'd like to withdraw my application at this time. Give me enough time to resubmit my application as a PUD with due respect to the commission.
Okay. Anyone here today to address us on that item? That's 15, I believe. Motion to withdraw.
Yes. Motion to withdraw. Second. Move.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to withdraw item 15. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Thank you.
We also have 6 items on the consent docket today. The first item is case PC 10452. Item 2 is case ABC 853. Item 3 is DA 24589. Item 4 is case C6811. Item 5 is C6817. And item 6 is C6822.
We have one protester to item 4. Is there anyone else who has an issue with items 1, 2, 3, 5, or 6 on the consent docket? I'll take a motion on all but item 4 on the consent docket.
Move approval of the items on the consent docket with the exception of item number 4.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent docket, except item 4. Cast your votes. And that's approved. First item in order now will be number 4. Kendall?
Good afternoon, Kendall Dillon with Craft and Toll, representing the applicant, and this is obviously a final plat. It's exactly, well, I say exactly, it's almost like the preliminary plat. There was one cul-de-sac that we looped through and were able to connect it in. Outside of that, it's identical to the preliminary plat, and there's only 5 TEs that we're agreement to, and we'd ask for your approval.
Okay. Mr. Knutson. Sir, if you would give us your name and address for the record.
Nick Knudsen, 6625 Northwest 150th.
Okay.
This is section 1. I'm passing out photos that show that their only interest on 150th Street is directly across from my driveway. 150th Street has become an extremely busy two-lane road now, with the Spring Creek, Deer Creek School, elementary school just around the corner on Rockwell. This is going to be, I think, a 370 dwelling project, and I would, for traffic concerns and just for safety getting out of my driveway, I would ask that they move their entrance. With the two black arrows, point on there would be acceptable to me, so that on between 7 and 9 in the morning and 4 and 6 in the evening, and Sunday when church lets out, so I can get out on the road.
Do you know the distance in feet between what is proposed and where you're suggesting they move their entrance to?
Oh, at 100, 150 feet probably. 4 lots, I think.
Okay, someone's walking up behind you.
500, excuse me, I'm Ann Newsom.
Okay, go ahead.
Ann Newsom, and it's 526 feet. That's from Google Maps,
So the separation,
from our driveway to the property line between the church and our property line.
traffic usually likes streets opposing each other rather than separating, but this is a big enough separation that that shouldn't matter. Kendall, you want to come and give us a response?
Right. Again, it's a final plat, and we have not, since the preliminary plat, changed the entrance location. One of the reasons that the entrance location is there is because that is the top of the hill. We have sight distance concerns. There's a reasonable grade on 150th, both east and west, and so we feel like that's the best location for our subdivision. And again, we've got another entrance eventually that will be off of Rockwell as well. So again, it's identical to the final plat. We got sight distance considerations, and so that's the reason we chose that location, and we feel like it's the best location for the subdivision. So we'd like to ask for your approval.
When was this zoned?
When was it zoned?
About what time?
It was zoned years ago.
Several years ago? When did we actually do the preliminary plat?
It's in the staff report, but generally probably 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
So it's recent. Like I say, and sight distance has been checked by your staff and everything in compliance, and there's no comments from traffic management. And again, like I say, it's a residential driveway, we understand, but like I say, I think that's where our interest needs to be.
Okay, commissioners, discussion, questions?
I just wondered, sir, were you notified on the preliminary plat?
Yes, and I had made plan, this is being continued. I initially made my phone call to the engineers on this, I believe in late November or December, and asked them to look at moving it then. That meeting was for January 14th, which I believe got continued. We were here, this was supposed to be here 2 weeks ago, we were here. That got continued, and so here we are today.
Okay, yeah, this being a final plat, that's kind of a bad place to ask for moving a egress and ingress.
It's a busy two-lane road and getting busier. They have one entrance on 150th, and they said they're going to have one entrance on Rockwell for 370 private dwellings. That's a lot of cars.
What would be involved in moving it, Kendall? I mean, I get it. You'd have to redo your sight distance. I understand that.
Right. It would be a complete redesign, quite honestly, especially if you look at the location of the primary road that we have coming in. It's there and it's at that location because it follows a ridge line through our subdivision, which affects the grading, which affects the drainage, which affects everything. Again, we have moved, one of the previous versions, we had the entrance a little bit further to the east, and so we did try to slide it to the west a little bit. But again, we're looking at a subdivision that the logical place, especially with the number of lots we've got and moving traffic in a safe manner, the top of the hill is where you want your entrance. And again, so on just about every subdivision, one of the big concerns that we look at on a preliminary plat is where's the safest place to put this entrance and where sight distance is the best. And in this location that we have it here is the best sight distance. And again, it's identical to the preliminary plat. So.
All right, thanks. I'm going to have to move approval. I
Second
think
the motion.
we're kind of far down the road to
Okay, we have a motion
Make a
and a
change.
second to approve item 4. Cast your votes, and it's approved.
Item 7 is SPUD 887 to rezone 5505 North Brookline Avenue from SPUD 673, R4, and O2 to SPUD 887.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. Here on behalf of the applicant, also with me is Mr. Glenn Ferguson, who is the developer. This is an exciting project. This is the old Tiffany apartment building, the iconic structure on Northwest Highway. There was a previous application several years ago that had a much more intense design that was approved. I've handed out the latest renderings. It's been scaled down in size, but the concept is still similar. You can tell from the elevations, the second building that will be built, which will be to the west of the current tower, will match in architectural style the main tower. We will have a podium deck where we will have parking underneath and then 3 levels of residential. The density has actually come down from what was approved in 2012. My client has been pursuing historic tax credits for this site, so one of the reasons you see in the elevations the second building looks similar, it will need to be for the site when we are pursuing those historic tax credits. There are no TEs except for the standard engineering one that we do agree to. I have spoken with Ms. Powers. I have spoken with several neighbors who I believe were here in the past. I took their involvement as they were just curious what was happening. I gave them all my contact information, told me any concerns, please give me a call. I have not heard back. So with that, we would like your approval so we can move forward with this project. Be happy to answer any questions.
Second.
And I apologize. I did promise Ms. Powers that we did negotiate on this. We do need to add a TE to remove the EMD signs that are in the SPUD now.
And do I understand you agreed with her to come back with a specific plan if it converts from residential to a hotel?
Yeah, if there is a hotel built on the site, we would agree to come back for a specific plan so that the Planning Commission can review that.
Okay, good. Thank you. No one, anyone in protest item 7? No one signed up, commissioners? We have a motion and a second to approve item 7. Cast your votes, and it's approved.
Thank you.
Item 8 is SPUD 892 to rezone 1628 and 1632 Northwest 29th Street from R1 to SPUD 892.
Sam Gresham, architect. I'm the owner of the property. I have some exhibits I passed out to illustrate the proposal. I did meet with Commissioner Powers on this issue, and she was, as I understood it, okay with it. This was a project similar to one I did behind Walgreens at 22nd and Classen, which is what's illustrated, what's in those photos that you have in front of you. It's 2 small dwellings on what is currently zoned R1. I'm surrounded, though, by, even though the zoning says R1, I'm surrounded by multifamily units built on those R1 lots. So my density is equal or very similar to the density existing around me. In fact, a little less dense.
Any questions of Sam?
I actually have a comment. Some time ago, a year or so ago, Janice and I drove around this essential neighborhood, and we looked at these projects that are being developed uniquely. And she said that you're one of the architects for some of those projects, and this is what I see here. I think it's great. I think it's great what you're doing to older neighborhoods to make them modern and convenient and spruce them up, so I move approval of this application.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 8. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 9 is SPUD 894 to rezone 5709 East Memorial Road from CHC to SPUD 894.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. Here on behalf of the applicant, also with me is Mr. Tim Curtis, who's the owner of this property. Our SPUD today seeks to take the site from commercial highway zoning to a limited SPUD. In conversing with my client, he has agreed to all the technical evaluations. I did visit with Mr. Cooper prior to the meeting, and he asked that question. So yes, we do agree with all the technical evaluations. When you look at the site plan we've submitted, we feel that with the uses proposed and the buffering that are proposed within the SPUD, it seeks and meets all the desires of the comp plan to provide appropriate transitional buffers within this RL designation. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions, and we do agree to all the technical evaluations.
We do have someone signed up, David.
Okay.
Kathy Stakely? Ms. Stakely, if you would pull the microphone down and then give us your name and address, please.
Sure. My name's Kathy Stakely, and I live at 6001 East Memorial.
Okay, thank you.
That's like 1.5 properties away from this area. And I wanted to know exactly what the plans were for the property, what's to be built. And I was trying to see it from back there, and I couldn't see it.
David will hand you a sheet.
Okay. Office. Okay, what exactly does retail industrial mean?
Ma'am, you need,
Sorry,
need to address that so it gets recorded, and then David
Sorry,
can answer.
what does retail industrial exactly mean? Because to me that is really open. If you have retail industrial, I'm wondering if that means like warehouse where trucks could come day and night.
David, what's intended? Or if not David, JJ, one of you.
The way I read the application, ma'am, is that you're going to be living next door to a large truck stop that's going to probably operate day and night. Am I right?
Well, let's talk about what the site's zoned right now. Right now, large truck stops and things much more intense than what we propose in the SPUD are permitted by right. So certainly that's a use unit within the SPUD, but the SPUD is limited in terms of what could be done today. What we do through the SPUD is limit sign height. We obviously have buffers that are included. We have architectural constraints. So when you look at the highway commercial zoning district, we believe that this SPUD provides more controls, provides more appropriate transitions and buffers than would otherwise be present today.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, but I'm just trying to tell her.
That is one of the uses.
This is what will probably be there, because that's what they're allowed to do.
Is the warehouse, is that what you're saying?
That's one of the uses. There's a host of things. You've got office, you've got light industrial, you've got the ability to have a vet clinic, which is a good possibility. So there's a host of things. One of the things that the SPUD will do is provide certain buffers, certain screening requirements, as well as certain architectural constraints that otherwise wouldn't be on the site.
Okay. When, just a couple of years ago, a gentleman tried to do something on the southeast side of Memorial and I-35. And there was a study done there where the planners decided that there was nothing that could be done there because of a need for green zone and dark sky and a few other things that were getting eaten away. And so my concern is we already have had a boat and RV storage put in. and they have lights that stay on all night. We're losing our animals.
Well, unfortunately, you're sitting right along an interstate highway and an interchange. The land now is zoned for...
That's why I'm concerned about what's going in. The boat and RV place, they shut down, so there's not activity at night.
Well,
my concern is if this is a warehouse, trucks may come and go all hours of the night. We may get the diesel,
Well, right now it's zoned to allow for highway commercial, which is very intense commercial. They're restricting some of that and providing some protections in this SPUD. So this is an improvement over what they could just go out there and build and never come down to talk.
I understand that, but
So that's where it's going to go.
where the restrictions are, you still want to make sure that you're protected. And so I just wanted to come and see exactly what the plans were.
In addition, the size of the site being a little less than 3 acres, the large mega warehouses that perhaps you're concerned about typically are on larger sites than what you would find here with less than 3 acres.
Okay. Because
I think it's fair, ma'am, to say that we don't know what they're going to do, all right? And so you're asking us questions that this commission cannot answer.
And that's
Okay.
what concerns me.
It should concern you, but you're asking us a question that we can't answer because
And I
the
think
developer
it might
has...
concern you if this were going to back up to your property.
I'd be concerned. I'm not saying that I don't disagree with your concern. You need to understand that. But we can't say what the developer is going to do. They've asked for the uses in their application, which include truck stop, large gas, convenience
I saw
sales,
that in the letter that I
cetera.
received. That's why I'm here.
but they've not told us what they're going to do. And they may not tell you. And they may not have to. Just to be 100% so you understand where we are right now. So we approved land uses. Frankly, this is an appropriate use that they've asked for at this particular location. I don't know how else to put it.
Okay.
This is...
And we'd be happy to sit down
I mean, I'm
and
happy
visit
for you to talk to them, but
between now and
they don't have to
council.
tell us.
Okay.
We can exchange contact information and visit between now and the time that this will go to City Council. We'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
Ms. Stakely, thank you for coming down.
I have a question, David. There's no indication in the SPUD on the use of EMD signs, and I would prefer that there wouldn't be, particularly for the neighbors concerned.
We don't intend to have EMD signs, so we can add a TE to that effect.
So that'll be an added TE?
Sure.
All right.
We didn't have any intent to, so we can add that.
So that's TE6. TE6. Okay. No one else has signed up.
Move approval of the application with the addition of TE6, no EMD signs.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 9, adding a TE, deleting EMD signs. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
Thank you.
David.
Item 10 is SPUD 895 to rezone 5904 South Santa Fe from R4 to PUD 895.
Afternoon, y'all. My name is D.W. Converse. I represent the client. My address is 3701 Lone Tree. You've read the report. Basically, it's a parking lot. We're just making it come in conformance with our SPUD. It'll be a parking lot joined this development. Ask for your approval.
You're in agreement with the TEs?
I read the TEs. I agree to them.
Okay. No one has signed up, commissioners.
I've got your sign covered.
I'm going to make a motion to approve, but I want to make a statement too. You know, I was not here at the last meeting, and that's not an excuse, but I wasn't here. So I don't know why we didn't do this with straight zoning. I don't know why we had to come back and do it with a spud. That, you know, this has been a parking lot forever. The building that's on it is C3. And why we couldn't stay with straight zoning on this, I don't understand. But anyway, that's my statement. I move to approve.
We have
Thank
a
you,
motion and a
Commissioner.
second to approve item 10. Cast your votes, and that's approved. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Item 11 is SPUD 896 to rezone 2842 Northwest 11th from R1 to SPUD 896.
My name is Jeff Struble, live at 1916 Northwest 18th Street, and talked about the removing the driveway up front, which I'm good with that. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to.
Commissioners, no one has signed up. There was a discussion with traffic staff about the one driveway on 11th Street and the potential for parking there, and that has gone away, and the parking will all be internal to the site. There'll be a handicap spot internal to the parking
Is that
lot.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, I drove by there, and this is a tough build.
It is.
You're this narrow and an alley and and all that, but the observation of the rest of the neighborhood, I'm not sure what this neighborhood is, Gatewood or
Miller Neighborhood
Miller
Association.
neighborhood. There are some homes just to the east of you where your project is that are really being improved. After a long, long time of neglect, this neighborhood is starting to, gentrify and bring itself up, et cetera. And I know that you're going to do 70% brick, and there's going to be some landscaping where you put things, et cetera. I just hope that, because I don't see an elevation of what it looks like from the northeast, south, or west, but I just hope that the architecture is compatible with a neighborhood that's really trying to bring itself up and be improved. And that vacant lot along May Avenue and 11th, it just sits there. So good luck with that.
It is, thank you. And we are looking at we're looking at making it look like a single-family house from the front. That was where the single driveway came in, and then there'd be the entrance on the back, a back-to-back kind of duplex. And
well, good luck with it.
Wanted to build something that looks real historic that fits in with the neighborhood.
Okay.
Jeff's one of the pioneers in that area, not only the Plaza District,
No,
but in the
I
surrounding
realize
areas.
that, and that's why.
Compliment you on that effort.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Same here. With that, I move approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 11 with the discussion on the parking change that Jeff and I discussed with traffic staff. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
Thank you very much.
Item 12 is SPUD 897 to rezone 1409 Northwest 10th from C4 and R3 to SPUD 897.
Good afternoon. Tim Johnson with Johnson & Associates. Really representing the potential developer on this tract, although Oklahoma City is the applicant on this rezoning. This is part of a development agreement that Oklahoma City is working with a particular developer on. They advertised publicly. The developer responded, was selected to begin this process, and this is step 2 or 3 in the process where we've met with several groups. We're working closely with Aubrey staff. Randy Stallings is here. And so this is one of the many steps. So we've applied to do the PUD to allow for a live-over retail residential block. As many of you know, this is a property that was acquired as part of the 10th Street streetscape work that was done by Oklahoma City a number of years ago and has sat vacant now for a number of years. So this is an attempt to revitalize these 4 blocks. The development will occur goal will be to close off Broward and to develop this in 3 blocks, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. As part of the development agreement, there'll have to be a certain percentage of completion done as the developer moves into the next blocks. So as part of the submittal package, we've submitted some floor plans and some, just as an example, this would be, the concept is to allow for some parking under the building and parking adjacent to the back side of the building, pushing the buildings up towards the front, creating that urban block with the retail on the first floor. We have some color elevations. We've shown all this to the neighborhood group in a couple of public meetings that we've had, but it's an attempt to create a kind of a townhome look as the block continues with the exchanging of colors and styles of brick and finish to allow it to not look all monolithic along there. So in the document, we restrict architectural design. We've got the normal restrictions on lighting being taken away from the development behind, the existing residential behind. One thing the staff has pointed out is that in our SPD language, we mentioned that we're going to meet the residential height restriction, but due to the narrowness of this lot, we really need to change that, amend the SPUD to allow it to meet the height restrictions that are shown on the elevations that were submitted with the application. And because the street goes at a grade, the building's about 34.5 feet on one end and 41 feet on the other, and so there's some variation there that allows the 2 stories over the parking and retail. It's a fairly straightforward application. Randy's here to answer any questions you have for the city, and I'm here to answer any questions about the development.
Okay. Questions, Commissioners? We do have someone signed up.
Chairman, am I reading this right? With the closure of Briar, that there would be green space in between. How far does that green space go?
It would create a park area that would allow for some parking off of Broward, and then it allows the pedestrians from the neighborhood to the north to access into that little park area, and then of course pedestrian access along the front. So we'd be creating kind of a pocket park by the closure of that street.
Okay.
My comment is that I think that this has been a vacant space for a long time. And to take advantage of the amount of money that was spent for the streetscape on 10th Street, this has been needed. So with everything that you planned and everything, good luck with it. I move approval.
Bob, we have someone who signed up in protest.
Erase that.
Okay. Jessica Thompson, if I've got that correct?
My name is Jessica Thompson. I live in Classington at 1414 Northwest 14th Street. Regarding this tract of land, it's been there for quite some time. It's been promised a lot of different things throughout the years, from just open green space to now possible apartments with retail. And we have concerned residents on Park Place that live on the north or south side of Park Place, and they are concerned about the height. They don't like that it's 3 stories. It's basically like looking at Olivet Baptist Church, which is a very large church, and then having that in your backyard. And I mean, that's a whole 4 blocks that you're looking at a wall, basically, when you're looking out in your backyard. So we have neighbors that are concerned about the height, and that we also have neighbors concerned about the retail and apartments. Julian Castro, the HUD secretary, he says that we're in an affordable housing crisis. And these apartments that are being put in are very small. We're looking at about maybe 700 square feet, 1-bedroom apartments to about 1,300 square feet, with only 2 of them being affordable And at that, I think they were talking about possibly $700 a month for that 700 square foot, one-bedroom apartment. But in Oklahoma City, especially in this area in Classen Tenpen, we have houses that are going very quickly, and they're going for very high prices, which is great. Don't get me wrong. We love that. I'm a realtor. But at the same time, we have a lot of people just my age that would never be able to afford one of these apartments. And so knowing that we are in an affordable housing crisis, I think that I would rather see some single-family homes in this spot besides just the apartments, although it is zoned R3, saying that there can be, apartments. But my concern is that it only really reaches out to a certain crowd of people, whether they be young or old. It's a higher price point, and someone like me, I can't afford that. And many of my friends as well that have great jobs, they can't afford, $1,000 a month for 1,000 square feet or a two-bedroom apartment. So I imagine you guys are probably going to pass this. From what I've heard, and when we began talking about this development, I'd say probably about 5 years ago when they started doing the S&I project, they kind of said to us, if you don't like what's going in here, then we have an opportunity to go back and do another RFP and see what else we can get, because Dodson Custom Homes is the only developer that bid on this land, and I don't think that gives that land justice. And so I think that if we can go back through the RFP, knowing that property values are beginning to go up, more people and builders, developers are looking at this neighborhood. And I think we should give them an opportunity to do bids for possible housing. I think that it would serve a great purpose for the neighborhood with increasing home ownership, because right now we are 31% owner-occupied and 69% renter base. So looking at those numbers too, I personally would like to see more home ownership, more people that are willing to be involved in what's going on in a neighborhood. But if this does pass today, I would ask that the Planning Commission remember that the other tract of land from Blackwelder to Virginia, there's a big amount of land there too. If they're going to pass this, if they can at least consider doing affordable housing on the other side on that tract of land. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down.
Any
Commissioners?
others?
Sir?
Any other protests?
No one else has signed up. Tim?
I was going to ask if Randy can address the process so you kind of understand why.
Well, there was an RFP, obviously.
Right.
Just to get a little bit of history on the RFP process, that actually went out about a year ago. We only had one response, which was Dodson Custom Homes. We've been negotiating with them for about a year now about this project, and we are very attentive, of course, to what's going on in the S&I neighborhoods, and we understand where Jessica's coming from on this. One of the things we need to note, there's seriously some developmental challenges on this site. The topography is very challenging. The water lines are located on the other side of the street. It's going to be very expensive to connect those. And so in order, just the economics of the project is really going to require that we have the density in the third story of apartments to really make that work. And so since we presented to the Neighborhood Association back in April, the developer has come forward with another affordable unit for those 24 apartments. We're now looking at 3 affordable units. Our negotiations, we were talking about 10%, so they are at that number now. There's also 9 townhomes on Track B, and one of those will be affordable as well. When we talk about affordable, we're talking about the families that are at or below that 80% income level.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question with Tim. When we talked on the phone about this, these units are going to be along the street. You're moving them up there towards the sidewalk, and they'll be all, up there. And then the back part, I think you said 60 feet from the back of the neighbor's back fence.
Varies up and down there. The depth of those lots vary slightly. Where it's like 50 feet here, it's a little narrower here, and it's a little wider on that end.
But it's a
setback.
There's a setback from the neighbor's fence, and I appreciate your comments, and I probably spoke too quickly, but I still haven't changed my mind. I think it's probably a necessary project. that eventually, with the retail that's going on, I think that there'll be a neighborhood acceptance of it, and I would move approval.
Hey, Tim, does the garage is all access from the rear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then on track 3, the C4 at the end, looks like that narrows down to one lane. Is that correct, out to Blackwelder?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
We had a motion. Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 12, amending the building height to the elevation displayed in the SPUD. Cast your votes, and it is approved.
Thank you.
Item 13 is SPUD 898 to rezone 436 Northwest 27th Street from R2 and HL to SPUD 898.
Hi, my name is Jack Chamberlain. I live at 2201 Heatherstone Road, Edmond, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And this is a building that was purchased and built out in a certain way, and it had it was zoned R2, but it was used. We had like an approved, some type of zoning that was approved, but we didn't know this when we bought it. But it was, I guess, if a property is vacant for 2 years, you lose your incorrect usage that was formerly approved. Anyway, so we have a huge 5,500 square foot building, half a block from the middle of Paseo, that's visible like crazy, and it's zoned R2, so we were just requesting that we could build this as a 8-unit apartment complex. We spoke with Commissioner Powers. She seemed to be behind it. HP was approved it. Jefferson Park met with the neighborhood association. They came down. They were behind it, and so. And then Mrs. Powers this morning had said that her only big concern was the alleyway that leads to our parking. And so spoke with planning, and they said that we should do, we all agreed that we should probably do a revocable permit to kind of clean that area up. It's just basically one house long from Walker. We just need to clean up that alleyway that goes to our parking. So.
Yeah, because apparently now it's barely paved, it's got potholes, and it's quite a mess.
I think, it's funny that I don't remember this, I've been down there 100 million times, but I think it's just gravel. It just got weeds, and actually right on the east side of our building, the alleyway, it doesn't end, but it pretty much ends. I mean, you can't really get back there. There's a ton, like overgrown like this. But I mean, you can drive back there pretty easily. You just need to kill the weeds and maybe put some more gravel there or whatever the appropriate thing is. We're fine with doing whatever it takes to make everybody happy.
Well, it would seem you'd have to do something in order to entice someone to want to go in there and rent the 8 units.
Say that again so I couldn't hear.
I say you'd have to improve that in some way in order to entice people to want to rent your 8 units, because otherwise they don't have access.
Yeah, I mean, you can drive back there now. It's just really the part that you drive on now, there are some weeds, but I mean, you can just get them up real quick. But I think more of it was the kind of topography, and we would probably just do whatever's necessary to make that appropriate, the gravel, or they're going to be kind of high-end units. So we, like you said.
JJ, question for you, please. I mean, looking at this site with no access except from the alley, and the alley is obviously outside the perimeter of the application, what can the Planning Commission do in terms of making sure they're satisfied?
Require the alley to be improved. He has the option, and we discussed this with him, to submit work order and plans and pave the alley to city standards, or he could attempt to gain a revocable permit that would allow him to go in and do anything to the alley less than city standards. He could do gravel, asphalt, millings through a revocable permit. But he has those two options to improve the alley.
Okay.
We're open to doing whatever we need to do. Just if money wasn't an option, we'd just pave it perfect. But trying to finish the long story behind this place where we need to get it.
Well, the notion of what you're doing is just fine. I don't have any problem with that at all. I don't think anyone else does either. Just the alley access being a concern for you and your future tenants. Commissioners, no one has signed up.
Well, if we approve it, he develops it, but he never gets access, have we missed an opportunity here to make sure that we get access before we approve it? Just a thought. Sorry.
That's okay.
He could agree.
I mean,
Mike, he could
certainly we've required that of other developers as they would be sitting out
he could agree to
crowd
a
nodding their head.
at least at a minimum of a revocable permit to upgrade the alley as.
And he does have access. There is a driveway that goes out to 27th Street.
Yeah, you can drive back
He does have
there.
access to the front street, and the access to the back is available, just not good.
Well, wouldn't we want that? My fellow commissioners, it would seem that we would.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make that a TE.
All right, so that's an added TE.
Correct. Past that, I'll approve it. Adding that.
Is there a second?
Revocable permit's fine with me.
That he'll request a revocable permit to improve the alley sufficient to have access to the rear of this property. Pardon me? He has a driveway there.
Yeah, he has access there.
But it's there now. So I don't think we need to do anything with that. So we have a motion and a second, do we? Adding the TE on the revocable permit? Okay. Cast your votes. And you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 14 is C-6816, the final plat of Clearwater, Section 2, located north of Southwest 59th and west of South Council.
Good afternoon. David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. Here on behalf of the applicant, also with me is Kendall Dillon, civil engineer for the project. This is a final plat. This final plat actually has 48 lots less than the preliminary plat had. There are 7 TEs. I do want to address TE number 6. In the preliminary plat, there was a very general letter provided by the previous engineer that dealt with recreational amenities, and what it provided for was some element of walking trail plus landscaping. So what we'd like to do is to further refine that TE so that everybody's, I guess, on the same page with what we propose. And what we would propose is, rather than having the children play on the landscaping, which might have been the earlier plan, is commit to a playground with a walking trail that would be part of the common area and abut that stream. We think it's a better solution than what was provided the first time. We couldn't really make heads or tails as to what it really was that was committed to in the first go-around. So that's what we would propose. We do agree with the rest of the TEs and would ask for your approval.
David, can you back up on the common area again?
Yes, sir.
And so I can understand what you're talking about. What are the boundaries of the common area? Where does the playground go? Where are the walking trails?
Yep. In the preliminary plat, this entire, and this is 2 sections, Clearwater 1 and 2, this is the final plat of 2. In the preliminary plat, this entire swath was dedicated as common area.
Okay.
Well, as we got to the final plat stage and we started laying out lots, what we found was there were some potential significant problems engineering with actually getting a walking trail that could work within the creek banks and the floodway and the floodplain. And so what we would propose is the common area that's down here that doesn't pose those problems is install a walking trail. So this is the zoomed in part of where I just was. A walking trail, and then playground, and then green space.
Well, I'm concerned about common area and playground basically at 59th Street at the entrance to the neighborhood. I mean, I'm a parent and I live deeper into the neighborhood, and I said to my children, say, go out and play by the traffic on 59th Street. That's not a very well located common area. And if you're coming in later with a proposal on the area to the east, I see a common area down by the street there, too.
I believe the area to the east is already developed and done.
Okay.
Again, when Kendall and I met with staff and reviewed the file, frankly, it wasn't entirely clear where they intended to put anything. They didn't commit to any location of common area. They didn't commit to any sort of amenities. So here we're at least committing to amenities, committing to what we believe was the original intent of the letter, that being some element of walking trail along the creek. We just think it's at a location now that allows you to have that walking trail without the engineering problems that another location might offer.
I agree. I mean, I love the playground and the walking trail, but I don't like the location. I think that's...
I mean, it's along 59th Street and along the main entrance into the neighborhood both.
What if we agreed...
Where you're going to have all your traffic.
What if we agreed to do the playground equipment on lots 4 and 5 within Block 9? That's about dead center.
Can you show me where that is on the...
I can.
What I'm looking at is too small to read.
Right here.
That's much better.
Okay. So we propose then to do the playground there.
Okay. Pat's having the problem I would, which is trying to see it on the graphic that we've got, which is so reduced. Kendall, show the other commissioners where you're talking about, please.
So perhaps we modify TE6 to just be that the recreational playground amenity shall be located what's shown as lots 4 and 5, Block 9, or centrally located.
Yeah, and there's no harm in having walking trails along the stream if you can do it.
We'll look at it. Again, I think we've got problems. We don't want to commit to it in case that we can't make it work, but if we can, then perhaps that would be something they would do.
Okay. Pardon? We can approve it with that amendment if the amendment's acceptable to the commission. Any other discussion, commissioners? No one has signed up.
I'm going to move for approval with the change, the TE6 showing the common area, and I don't know what those lots were again.
4 and 5, Block 9.
What he said.
Or centrally located. I mean, what
Centrally located, yeah.
Within Block 9 would be centrally located, so.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 14, putting the common area within Block 9. That's the easiest way to say it.
Works for me.
Ready to vote? Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 15 was withdrawn, so item 16 is SPUD 893 to rezone 6424 Southwest 104th from AA to SPUD 893.
Larry Lambrecht Construction, 609 South Kelly, representing the Joe and Tina Milam in their request to get a SPUD approved this afternoon. The Milams currently live at 6424 Southwest 104th is where the location of the SPUD request is, and their request just boils down to be able to utilize and comply with all of the existing ordinances and be able to use their existing home as a event center.
Do they understand that in order for this use to be approved, you'd very likely have to do things like sprinkler the building? The septic system would have to be redone to accommodate
Yes, sir.
the scale of activity you're proposing?
We've had meetings with the building department and the fire marshal and other entities inside the city building department and gone over those initially, and they have given us a checklist, just a verbal checklist of what we'll have to do to comply.
Bob, you have something to...
I think it would be,
Give us your-
I'm Robert Thompson at 6301 Waterford Boulevard, attorney for the applicant. What I'd like to do, because I understand we have some people signed up to talk.
We do.
I'd like to pass around first an aerial view of the area. And on this page, there's an arrow that indicates where the Milam tract is located, which is the upper left-hand corner. This is a 5-acre subdivision. Their property utilizes 104th Street. There wouldn't be any access to any of the interior streets in this subdivision. It's a 5-acre tract. As you can be able to see from this aerial photo, there's a lot of distance between all the properties. And then these photos are copies of photos taken of the tract. They've held a couple of events there. A couple are nonprofit events done on Halloween and Easter, where they've had the fire department out and had guests, invited children, and passed out toys and treats for the kids, and it's been a nice event. The other events they want to do are some weddings or some class reunions or some parties, and it'll all be conducted on the north side of their property. Very little even visual exposure to any of the neighbors. Other than the next door neighbor, they'll be 1,000 feet away from the nearest home at their event center. And we understand that we have some other issues to deal with, such as particularly maybe vacating this plat from the subdivision to make this more compatible with subdivision restrictions. But I think it is an appropriate tract because of the access for an event center and which requires a PUD as opposed to, it's AA zoning right now.
If you want to give the handouts to Commissioner Ryan, we'll pass them around.
Did you meet with the neighbors? Y'all had a meeting about this, just out of curiosity?
Well, they've had many of the neighbors participating in the charitable events that have occurred there, and they've had maybe unlimited success meeting with the neighbors that I think, based on the protest filed, the neighborhood is not in favor of it, but we think the tract is appropriate because of the uniqueness. This lot is not connected in any way except for the back fence and the east fence to the subdivision at all. Doesn't access through the subdivision. It accesses in and off 104th Street. And immediately to the west of this tract is Hay Meadow, and then it's about a quarter of a mile over then to Rockwell to their east, and it's undeveloped east of the tract. I mean west of the west side of the tract is undeveloped.
Okay. But isn't it part of this neighborhood? Isn't it part of this?
It's part of this subdivision, yes.
Subdivision?
In terms of a location, it's really not a part of the...
But it's part of the subdivision?
It is.
Okay.
And that's what we have to address with a vacation of this tract from it.
Okay, Commissioners, we have quite a few people who want to speak. So if you gentlemen will sit down for a minute. I'm going to call you folks in the order that I've got the names here in front of me. I'm going to ask you, as you come up and speak after one of your neighbors, that you not repeat what we've already heard. We're looking for new information. I've got probably 10 of you signed up. And if you all say the same thing, that's really not going to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So once the first person has talked, if you've got new information you'd like to share, we would like to hear it. And the first person, well, let me ask a question first. Is there an attorney for the neighborhood? Are you Mr. McIntyre? All right, well, let you go first then. Give us your name and address.
My name is Noble McIntyre. I'm an attorney here in Oklahoma City, but I'm also a resident of the neighborhood, 10600 Old Tuscany Road. I think what is most interesting in the application that's been filed by the applicant is that they did not provide to you all of the relevant information that you need to make this decision. And specifically what they did not provide to you were the covenants and restrictions that run with their property. Everybody that's in that neighborhood, there's 25 lots, all 5 acres in the neighborhood, and everybody that purchased out there agreed to restrictions and covenants. Now, you guys haven't been provided a copy, and I didn't bring extra copies, but I will pass this around.
You do understand we have no authority or
I get that.
To covenants at all.
I get that. I'm just telling you what the effect of your decision will be if this committee were to elect to agree and let them move forward, that it essentially ensures litigation. And that may not be a concern of this committee, but it certainly is a concern to the neighborhood. And specifically, and I'm only going to refer to a few items, item number 1 in the covenants is that every lot out there is exclusively for residential usage. Now, this is 25 home lots. I mean, to allow a commercial property to come in, you might as well let the next guy put in a gas station or the next guy put in a liquor store. Once you open that door, it's like a cancer. You're going to have more and more people trying to make that same application. So if you're going to put in an event center, you need to pick a commercial area. Don't move into a residential area, accept the terms and covenants, and then after the fact say, I want to start this business.
Okay, you need to understand, though, we're not going to consider the covenants at all.
That's all right, but I still want to make them clear to the committee.
By law, we can't.
Yeah, I understand that. The second thing is that there will be no trade activities carried on the residential lot. And again, I understand your position, but I think it's important for the committee to know that those are some more items that we're restricted to. Another item in the restricted covenants is you can't have any signs except for a 6x6 sign, a 6-square-foot sign. The applicant's proposing a 100-square-foot sign. And there's just multiple things. But the primary overriding thing, even if you were to throw out the fact that there's restrictions and covenants, and even if you were to forget for a moment that this is a residential area, this is on 104th, 2 miles off of I-44. The road from I-44 to where the entrance to the neighborhood starts is about a 2-mile stretch of road. It's not a well-lit road. It's a 2-lane road. It's getting busier because there's a Walmart going in there. But more importantly, in these 25 homes, you have about 12 to 15 teenage drivers. Now, this application talks about parties, serving alcohol late into the night. Everybody on this committee knows that if you have that kind of event, you're going to have people drinking and you're going to have people driving. If this is proposed in this area, which is the absolute wrong place to put something like this in, you're going to have some drivers that are drinking and driving that dark, not well-lit area stretched 2-mile highway down to I-44. And you're going to lose a teenager. It's not, maybe not happen today, it may not happen next year, but it's going to happen because there's just no give. It's not like it's a 2-lane road with wide shoulders. It's dark, it's not well-lit, and it's a mistake to approve a business that serves alcohol when you have this type of environment. This just is not the place to put an event center. Thank you.
Dean and Jean Price. If you'll pull the microphone down and give
Jean
us your...
Price, 11201 Vineyard Road.
If you'll pull the microphone down, please. Thank you.
Our concern on this is the parking. If it's going to be a facility that they have said they're going to have there, there's no parking. And so there's people that live next door to them, and their parking is going to be up and down, as he said, the 2-lane road, which is a very busy road. It comes off of Tinker, not Tinker, but the airport, and it's very heavily traveled.
Thank you. Jerry Fletcher.
I'm Jerry Fletcher. I live at 11125 Vineyard Road. The only thing I'd like to add to what's been said is also what I've read, that they're going to have live music events at this location. And even though this is farther away from my property line or whatsoever, everybody knows if you have live music, that'll be a disturbance to our peace and tranquility of our property that we bought. You know, when we bought that property, we bought it with the covenants in place, knowing that we just wanted a quiet place to live. And so, you know, my biggest concern is the drinking, like Mr. McIntyre said, but also the noise that might come about in case of a party. That's the only thing I have to add.
Thank you. Douglas Baxter.
Thank you for your time, Commission. My name is Douglas Baxter, 600 West Sheridan. I'm an attorney for Mr. Hunsucker, representing Mr. Hunsucker today. Mr. Hunsucker does live in the neighborhood. One of his biggest concerns is the fact that he does have 3 small children, or say small children. He's got 3 children that are approaching teenage years or are already there. He's got one that just started driving within the last year. Again, like has been brought up, when you have an event center, you're going to have alcoholic beverages. You're going to have lots of traffic. There's lots of families in this area that have small children, have kids driving around in the neighborhood, going and coming to and from school functions, summer projects, whatever it may be. It's not an appropriate place. He objects to this because it is an inappropriate place to put an event center where you're increasing that kind of traffic around that many teenagers, families, and in a residential area as it is zoned at this time.
Okay, thank you. Murray McIntyre.
My name is Murray McIntyre. I live at 10501 Old Tuscany, which is two houses to the east of the proposal by Mr. Milan, some 800 feet from my property line to his property line. And from the standpoint of the facility wasn't originally sold to the rest of the owners as a venue that he's proposing today. He had about probably $1 million house that he was going to put property behind, and somehow the house fell down, and we ended up with what you see today. My concern primarily is that the property is on the very far west end of Old Tuscany, and if you come from the west going east, you come through a green belt, and it's almost a blind turn into the Milan property. You're on it pretty suddenly, and with the advent of the kind of traffic that we see on Southwest 104th, which is significant at times, it's almost bumper to bumper on 104th. It's a busy, narrow, no shoulder street. And from a pure safety standpoint, the venue should have never been placed there. It's a beautiful structure. Should have been out in the middle of a 40-acre field someplace, but not on 5 acres with neighbors right up alongside of it. It's an imposition to his neighbors specifically, a serious imposition, and it seriously devalues their property. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby McIntyre. There are a lot of McIntyres in this neighborhood.
Bobby McIntyre. I live at 11124 Vineyard Road. The only thing I want to add is that I'm the acting president for the HOA, and we had a board meeting of all board members, and we all were against this proposal. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you very much. Blake Murdoch.
Blake Murdoch, 6225 Southwest 109th. My property is not directly south of his, but move over to. We purchased the house, about to be empty nesters, moved in. We were concerned about that building, so I did my due diligence, approached the gentleman to my rear here, and I just flat out asked him, what are you doing? And if this is the actual builder, Lindbrecht, I can't quite pronounce the name. And he goes, the owner just always wanted a castle for a house. I don't know why he didn't choose 40 acres somewhere else, but he said he just likes the area. So purchasing the house, shop, in-ground pool for the wife, well over $500,000 invested. I wish I could have just gotten some honesty.
Thank you. Tom Lewis.
Thank you. Tom Lewis, 6400 Southwest 104th, and I'm the house to the right. Okay. So my biggest issue, I guess, is the parking. How many people are we expecting at these events? Traffic on 104th is pretty bad. One event, I think it was Halloween, a Halloween event, and we had traffic lined up and down 104th Street. So other than the loudness that we might get from parties, and this, I'm finding out today what's going to be going on. And
sir,
I guess I'll visit.
Sir, you need to talk to us, please.
Okay. I guess I'll visit with him when we get back to the house, but I'm concerned about the parties and the drinking.
Thank you. Lynn Blevins.
My name is Lynn Blevins. I live at 6300 Southwest 104th. I'm the second house over from him. And my concerns are the same as Mr. Lewis's, is the loud noise, parking on 104th. My driveway comes off 104th, and I've had people parking almost in my driveway where I couldn't hardly get out on 104th. And that's one of the reasons I'm protesting, that and the loud noise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, no one else has signed up to speak, but I wouldn't want to deprive anyone. So is there anyone else who would like to say something who has not yet stood up? Sure. Come on up.
Before Milam addresses you, let me address a couple of the concerns that were raised. Traffic has been raised as an issue, and that together with parking, I think, is a central issue. I think it's in the TEs that all parking would be on the Milam track. If it's not, we would certainly be willing to make that a TE, that there will be no parking allowed for any event off-site. It would have to be done on the Milam track. I know that the staff addressed the traffic issue and pointed out that the normal operation, there won't be any additional traffic. It'll be a very few in between events, and in those events, 104th it can handle whatever traffic's there, because we're talking about fairly small events, weddings and maybe a class reunion or some event like that. But traffic would only be a very brief period of time. There would be an issue, and all parking would be on the site. In terms of music, the only music that would be permitted, Mr. Milam, and this can be made a TE if necessary, that it would be on the inside of the buildings. And Mr. Milam had a couple of these events earlier, and he actually drove the perimeter of his property to make sure he wasn't generating music that would be disturbing, and it was not in any disturbing level at all. And then all music would be on the inside of the building. I want to address one thing about the drinking and that sort of thing. You'd almost have to know Mr. Milam like I've known him for the last 25 years, and his father before him. But Mr. Milam is one of the founding members in Oklahoma of BACA, which is Bikers Against Child Abuse. He's dedicated many of his years protecting and safeguarding the youth in these communities who might be abused by a father or stepfather or just some other person in a child's life. He has great concern for safety. He will not allow any excessive drinking or anything that's going to create a traffic hazard. And Mr. Milam doesn't drink a drop. I've offered him a drink out of some of my wine before, and he won't take it. But he's a teetotaler. But he has a great concern for the public safety and for the youth of this community. As you can tell by the two charitable events that he's conducted, and he's actually enlisted the cooperation and support of our fire and police fighters out there helping put on these events. They're going to be not frequent, but when they are, they're going to be done right.
Okay. You're Mr. Milam?
Yes, sir.
Give us your name and address, if you will.
Joe Milam, 6424 Southwest 104. I appreciate the time. I know there's a lot of neighbors who disagree with this, and the biggest reason is not one of them have ever came to me and talked to me personally about anything. But if they want to do that, I'm perfectly fine with it. This is a house. It was never developed as a business. This is a 12,500 square foot house. It was submitted by Larry Lambrick to the city council. It was approved. Yes, I had a $750,000 house, not a $500,000 house as stated before. I had a $750,000 house on that property before, got a divorce, gave it to my wife, bought it back, decided to remodel it, and then changed our mind so many times we bulldozed it. That's my option. It's my house to do that. This house is a very beautiful structure. I've spent $5 million building this. It's my house. This will do nothing but raise property values, which I have no problem with. Any event that's ever been put onto this place has been controlled by me, the owner. I am a very respectful person. I don't drink. I don't drive, anything like that. 100% of the parking on this property since the first of this year, when I was capable of doing it, is inside my gated community, on my property. There's no parking on outside. Now, if the neighbors want to complain about a Halloween party, I can't control people on Halloween parking on streets. It happens millions of times a day during Halloween. People come by, they come by and collect candy, and they leave. But since the first of this year, 100% of the parking is inside my facility. 99% of the events I've ever had here, which these people are guests at my house and they're not being charged, is the noise level is inside the building. This is a well-built building by Mr. Lambert. It's spray insulated. There's no noise that any neighbor can hear, and I promise you, there has never been a police officer come by my house and say there was a noise violation. There's never been a parking violation. Any events on the outside of my property, if there is any, which there have been a few, are on my front yard, which are on the northwest corner of my property. It faces a tree line. Weddings are very quiet. You have one speaker out there for a wedding while the bride's walking down the aisle. I had a wedding a few days ago on my property for a personal friend of mine in the gazebo. Very private property, very quiet. As soon as the event's done, they go inside and they have a party. Drinking. I'm amazed that I get accused for anything that could possibly happen, they're going to throw at me. We hire licensed caterers with licensed bartenders to come out. There has never been an accident. There's never been a fight. There's never been a neighbor, a guest go in a neighbor's yard. This is the quietest house that you'll run across, even if there's an event going here. I am very proud of this. This is not an event center. This is a house that I've been asked if I can do events and I can have people come over and do this. It's a beautiful piece of property. There is no traffic concerns whatsoever. If you drive by Southwest 104th, unlike what they want you to believe, anytime after 5, 6 o'clock, there's very, very minimal traffic. Now, like the person before said, there's a Walmart, Super Walmart, going in 3 miles down the street. I'm sure there had to be a traffic study to figure out if Southwest 104th could handle that. There's also a brand new shopping center being built on the east side of I-40, 2.5 miles down the street. I'm sure there had to be a traffic study for that. And they're worried about me having 2 to 6 events a month with a few hundred cars. That's not a problem. There's no cars parking on the street. There's no noise. I'm personally out there doing the parking. I own the place, and I'm personally on the golf cart out there parking everybody and making sure they go inside the building. But to get back to the main point, not one neighbor ever has come to me and told me there was a problem with what I'm doing. That disappoints me. Not one person. It's easy to sit behind a wall and sit there and talk about somebody. Come over to my house. I invite you to come to my house. Anybody has permission to come in my house and see this place. It's very, very beautiful. And I promise you, if this is allowed, I would invite anybody here to come see this place. This will be the most beautiful event center in Southwest Oklahoma City, if not the surrounding states. And I can see why some people don't want it, because some people in here, I know of at least one person here, has his own event center. So that's a conflict of interest because he's worried about me taking business away from him. But I promise you, if you come out and look in my house, it is a very, very beautiful, quiet atmosphere here, and there's no problems.
Let me just ask you one question, and then we'll kind of cut the discussion short. You live in this home, and you will continue to, is that correct?
Yes, sir. This is my house. There is actually a 3-story building inside my house. I live on the first floor inside my house. This is designed as my house. The front area is a 5,000 square foot garage. Then there's a 3-story building in the center of it. Then we're finishing up a 4,000 square feet, basically a big cabana living room in the back. This is designed as a house. It was never designed as an event center. Okay. But I can have as many events here as I want because I have a lot of space. And that's all I ask, is have the opportunity to do charitable events and weddings and parties and stuff like that. I would be glad to take on any concern that anybody has, but don't make up stuff on things that may happen. Show me something that has happened. Nothing has ever happened here that's been illegal. Nothing has ever happened here that's caused the neighbors to be mad because they never come over and talk to you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners?
Can I have someone think? Can my wife come up and talk for a second?
A second.
Yeah. She's very passionate, so.
Give us your name, please.
I just want to talk
Your
just
name.
a minute. It's Tina Milam, and I do reside at 6424 Southwest 104th. Thank you for letting me talk. I know you've listened to a whole bunch of people on this, but I don't know if you had an opportunity to read the story that we wrote
We all got it.
And I'll probably cry because it's just me, but I am very passionate about the things that we do. And it's not just about money for us. It is our home. We love the property, and no, we didn't build a new house because we didn't like the brick. That had nothing to do with it. It started out, we have 6 children who are married or have spouses, 6 others, 7 grandchildren. Sunday night dinner for us is about 50 people with just our immediate family, which is why we wanted something big. My husband started Milam Tool Company with his father 30-something years ago. When he decided to sell it a few years ago, we got the proceeds from that company and decided what we wanted to do with it. And he said, well, you know what? I've always wanted to build a big place and he said, how about a castle? My maiden name is Castillo, which means castle in Spanish. So that's where Milam Castle came from. There is no huge monstrosity sign. There's a sign out front that says Milam Castle, which is his name and mine. That's all there is. That's all there's ever going to be. There is no, it is what it is. I mean, we tried to do things every day to make it more beautiful and to make everything proud. We have had several neighbors that have come to some of our events. The Halloween party, there's been people from Old Tuscany too that have been over there and have been wonderful. The lady across the street offered for us to have overflow parking at her yard. Our next door neighbor just moved in recently, last year, so we haven't really had a chance to get to talk to him, but we noticed somebody drove on his property, so we made sure we put up caution signs, which we plan on putting trees and stuff there to give him more privacy, so we've thought of that. But the biggest thing that we do that is more touching to me than anything is the events that we have for the children and the weddings that we do have. And I mean, what nobody else can express is the feeling when you have a young girl come through. And these weddings that we've had have been friends or people that we've known that were needy that couldn't afford to have a wedding. I want every girl to have their own wedding. I buy dresses for them. I've spent more of my own money doing this. I mean, that's more than I could say for Mr. McIntyre's event center. I'm sure he does it to make money. I do want to make money, but I want everyone to understand it's not just about that. And our neighbors, we have invited to every event we've had as far as the community things. We've personally gone over and invited them. So I just want to make sure that you understand it's not just about that for us. It's more, but it's our home. We are protective. We aren't big drinkers. We are conscientious of our kids and everyone else, the neighborhood and so forth. So, you know.
Well, thank you. We kind of need to, there's one more hand in the back somewhere. Two backs, apparently, and I only saw one. Just briefly.
My name is Sunny Fletcher. I live at 11125 Vineyard Road. I'm very proud of our community, and all of our community are very successful businessmen. And I think that we bought this house because it's quiet and far away from the city. And, you know, we live on this 5-acre tract. Everybody can use it as their own business, actually. So if we are in rig business, okay, now the business is bad. Can I pack my rig there? It's also pretty. We painted. So I think that once this is zoned, and everybody should live, you know, by the rules that we all agreed upon.
Thank you. You'll be the last. Thank you. And give us your name.
My name is Jennifer Smith. I live at 6401 Southwest 109th, and so I live catty corner behind the lot. My biggest concern right now is that the front of the property, the Milam property, looks great. However, the back of it that backs up to us, the fence is in need of staining, in need of repair. We look at big dumpsters. So what are we going to do with the rest of the property for the people who has to look at it from the other side?
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners?
Well, I certainly don't, I know there's a big demand for this type of places and event centers and so on. And I certainly don't question the Milam's motives or what they want to do or how they would run their business, but I just don't think this is an appropriate place for a business. I just don't think. I think it's too close. It's part of a neighborhood. It's on the tract of land is too small. You have a beautiful house. It's a beautiful area. The neighborhood's beautiful. But I just don't think that this is where an event center should be. That's just my opinion, and so I'm going to move to deny the application.
Jim, you have something to say?
No, I'm just going to second.
Any further discussion over here? Okay, Commissioners, we have a motion and a second to deny the application. Cast your votes. It is denied.
All of our other items were continued or withdrawn.
Okay. Okay, Planning Commission members?
I won't be at the next meeting.
I'll be in the British Virgin Islands, so there. I said I'll be in the British Virgin Islands for the next meeting. I'll call my vote in. How's that? Any other comments, Commissioners? Planning Department? Development Services? Municipal Counselor? Motion to adjourn. And we're adjourned at 2:57.